Well, hello and welcome back to the Improving Season podcast, guys. I'm a little bit out of practice when it comes to introducing these things, but I've never been good at these things anyway to begin with. So here we are back at it. I'm back from kind of the dead, back from the Christmas break, back from the New Year's Eve break as well. And on the other end, it is Steve. Steve, how are you doing?
I know what it's like. If I haven't done a podcast for I don't know, it's rare that I haven't done a podcast for more than a week. Because if I haven't done a podcast for 2 weeks, I've either been fucking productive in many weeks before, or we're really behind.
Yeah.
I actually don't think we've missed a week of a podcast for a long time.
I only can recall one time, and that I think was back in 2017.
Did we do you did a Christmas remix?
Yeah, exactly. And that was back in 2017.
Madness.
Yeah.
I don't know how we keep just spewing out the content, but somehow we stay on top of it.
We haven't done this in 2 weeks, right? And I can really see on my face how chubby I've become. Man, what's going on?
You probably see it in my face as well.
No, not so much. I can just see the stash, which is kind of that 70s porn stash.
It's
good. It's good though. Don't be ashamed for that.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing with the moustache. I've decided this time. I normally trim it a little bit, but this time I'm just no, I'm just going to keep it, see how far it goes.
Is it because you're now moving houses and you want to actually leave a good impression for the neighbors?
I have no idea.
Hey, on that serious
moustache
mid-30s guy.
I'm probably I imagine will grow out the beard once my face gets to a point where I'm it's a bit too chubby. Need to hide that boy up. But yeah, it's actually no one around me has said, "Oh, Steve, you're looking much bigger" or anything like that. It's been quite nice in that sense, because I've definitely noticed it. It's I don't know, when I don't think I've ever done a recovery phase this assertive before.
Okay.
And I haven't been particularly assertive. I think I've been incredibly appropriate, and I feel really pleased about it. But it's going from that because normally I think I posted the other day, I saw in a memory, and it was 2017, 9 weeks post show. I was 5 pounds up on stage.
Yeah.
Wait, it's 5 pounds up over 9 weeks. What am I doing? What was I doing back then? I can't have felt good. Whereas I think I said to you, and I may have even said, actually, no, we didn't say it on the last coaching corner, but I said it on my Instagram post. I feel like Steve again. Truly now, this is I feel like my body's happy at this body fat point. And I think I've just entered into that lower end of it, which is cool because it's everything you want. You've got a great appetite, but you're not food focused. You got lots of energy level. Your libido's good. You're sleeping well.
And performance does feel good as well, because sometimes I have the feeling that when you've been dieting for very long, come out of the dieting phase and everything still doesn't really feel right. You still feel, of course, you have more energy, but it's not as if the batteries are fully loaded.
It's basically took me to this body weight, which is just below or around 180 pounds, basically. I have touched 180 pounds on a few weigh-ins, but this is I had been feeling pretty good because I didn't really lose much performance throughout prep, but it didn't, you'd expect. Steve, you're in 1,000 calorie surplus now and you didn't really lose too much performance. Surely you're gaining tons of performance out. I wasn't. I was still kind of just plodding along at a usual rate. But the last couple of weeks, I felt really good. And I think I may even have hit maybe a PR on hack squats, or I'm knocking on the door on some PRs for some lifts, straight leg deadlifts. They're really close to an all-time best.
That was fast, actually.
Yeah. So I think that's credit to maintaining performance and then doing a proper recovery period rather than elongating, being lean, but actually not. You're just extending the period of time. And some people need to do that psychologically. Yeah. Maybe I did. But yeah, now I'm knocking on the door of everything now should be improvement season time.
No, that's great to hear. On that note, Steve, you have never been someone who actually was struggling then after a diet with everything, right? And this is a very, very common phenomenon. I can't even recall what I really felt like back in 2017 and 18 when it was the first time that I actually lost complete control of it. I just remember that I felt like shit about the entire situation, right? And felt depressed about it. But I'm wondering whether there were other contributing factors to the way that I felt. It was just adding to things, or it was kind of the last catalyst that then actually made the volcano erupt, so to speak. Why get people so emotional about it? I'm trying. Just lately, as of late, I'm trying to wrap my head around it, because you're not changing as a person. Like, your character is not changing. You're not becoming a worse person. Yes, you may put on a little bit more body fat and so, and yes, you may not find it as attractive, or you may not feel as comfortable in your skin. But there are so many other things that are much, much worse. Much, much worse. And people are then stuck in that cycle of just like moaning and complaining and feeling down about themselves. And all you're complaining about is your privilege.
Yeah,
and that is just something that I've been thinking about as of late, because I've been confronted with that over and over again, and I'm seeing that on a continuous basis, and I'm just like, once again, maybe I'm so detached from what I went through that I have a hard time kind of reimagining what it was like for me. But if we really think about it, it's just like you complain about your privilege of being able to eat a lot and maybe deviating from the dieting spot, which is also a privilege in and for itself, that you are able to diet, you are able to go into the gym and all that kind of stuff, right? And just one of my athletes, shout out, and my heart goes out to Sam, my client. He was just in a motorbike accident like yesterday. And he then recorded a message out of the hospital for me and all that kind of stuff, right? To him, right? He's not able to now train at all. And it could have ended much, much worse. Or Sam Okunula, I don't know if you've seen that. He was also in a car accident on the highway, and his entire car was shattered. And it was him with his entire family. And I'm just thinking like, man, the life of your entire family could have been over at that point. And yet here we are, whining, moaning, complaining about having gained a little bit of fluff.
Yeah, it's when you boil it down to like it being an actual privilege that we've got access to be able to put on body fat, and there's people in the world who like struggle, and I think it's hard when you always compare to their like we should compare to like a normal playing field, I guess, for us, but you do get so emotionally attached to a certain physique, and I think over time, hopefully you become a bit better at de-investing in that. But it reminds me of a client actually recently. We dieted down. He got to the best shape of his life for a holiday. He went on holiday, and then it was Christmas, so he didn't really train on holiday properly. Christmas was a bit of a rough time, in and out of gyms and not really be able to train. And he put on like 5 kilos maybe from where he was. And he was like, I feel like I've just wasted like 5 kilos and I've just wasted that time. And I was like, well, you haven't, because you enjoyed lots of food over the Christmas period. You enjoyed your holiday. You've probably got better energy levels. Like, you haven't wasted that time. It's just a there's for every gimme, there's a gotcha, as Lyndon used to say from JPS when he was at JPS. And yeah, it's just realizing that every action you have has like cost benefit. And yeah, I saw Sam, I know who you're referring to now. I saw his story this morning where he was just like, I can't move out of bed. Like, I've had this accident. I can't move. And now it's making me appreciate when I could move and when I did feel healthy and when I had energy levels. But I think when you're so used to having it, you lose touch a little bit. So it's always good to, I don't know, try and stay grounded somehow. I guess if you've always come from money and you've always had money and then you have none, it's like, oh, now I appreciate what I did have, but I didn't appreciate it at the time.
I mean, I'm not downplaying that someone is stressing about it or is going through a rough time or anything alike. Absolutely not, right? And it's like you said, you can't really compare the stress or the problems of person A with the stress and problems of person B. These are different lives, different circumstances, different preferences, and all that kind of stuff. But it's funny that people are getting into fitness, and especially like bodybuilding, physique optimization, in the hopes to change something for the better. And I see it so often that people end up in a much worse position. It's like the psychological thing of like millionaires, so like millionaires overnight. Like if I were to give you like £1 million now, send it to your bank account, and then the next day I will tell you you have to actually give it back to me, and you're sending it over to me, you feel much, much worse after that, even though that your life has not changed whatsoever. Right? And for many people, they are going or getting into the fitness industry or losing some pounds. Let's just assume that someone is losing those 5 kilograms and regaining those 5 kilograms. He is the same individual that he has been just a while back. Nothing really has changed, but his mentality is more fucked up now because he thinks that he's a loser or he messed up. I don't know, something negative. He has now a negative connotation with himself, with his body composition and all that kind of stuff, even though that he may be in the same spot, right? And actually he is wiser because he probably learned something along the way. Right? It's weird. It's fucked up. And I think that many, many listeners can relate to that. And when they really take the time to think about that, they either are in that spot themselves or know someone to which it applies. Where it's like, if you really just like take the moment, that is actually kind of sad that many people are actually getting in, and it creates the opposite results for them. That it's not making them happier, it's actually making them more miserable, more neurotic, more panicky overall about small minor things that they didn't really stress about before. And I sometimes think, while it's a romantic thought that fitness and moving and getting off the couch is always a good endeavor for each and every one, I wonder whether this is actually true. And I think that sometimes it isn't.
Pascal, I have 2 thoughts. One, you've been scouring the anti-diet forums. That actually sounds a little bit anti-diet. No. Not that I know, I'm not well acquainted with their arguments or any of that. And then 2, it reminds me of the meme of the bodybuilder who's like jacked and he looks in the mirror and he's just like a skinny little child.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you become a bodybuilder, it's just like, that's like what people talk about. But I have to say, for me personally, and I think the same is for you, there might have been elements of that, and there's definitely not all just pros, but on the whole, it's definitely been a positive thing. And even for you, actually, and the listeners will know this, it's taking you a heck of a long time to be like proud of your physique and to be happy with what you see in the mirror. And that changed this past, 2021. So 2022 is going to be even better.
No, absolutely. And to all of the internet psychologists out there, I'm not talking about me. I'm not dissatisfied, or I'm not in a bad spot at the moment when it comes to my body composition and all that kind of stuff. Not that everyone is assuming that and is writing in the comment section, what is happening? Pascal is talking about his chubby face. It was more like the Christmas period happened. Of course, I was going through a lot of check-ins, and I think that many people are way too hard on themselves when it comes to the Christmas period, what has happened there, and just overall when it comes to their body image, the way that they perceive themselves. And I just reflected upon that, and because of the magnitude, right? You can give them recommendations, you can give them suggestions of what to do, how to cope with that situation, and how to address an event. And then they are coming out of it not enjoying that event. And you're then wondering, like, okay, I'm the coach. My obligation is it to create results for the athlete. Hopefully in the most healthy fashion as well. And I want them to be at a point where they take a look at themselves. And let's just take your example, the bodybuilder who takes a look in the mirror, instead of seeing a skinny dude in front of him, that they are actually seeing what other people are seeing. However, it's very, very hard to get there. And often I have the feeling that maybe it's even the other way around. And I hate that because I would love to be able to help everyone who approaches me. Sometimes, though, I have the feeling that they came to or are coming to the coaching service. They are highly motivated. In the first initial stages, they are riding on a high. Everything is going smoothly. And then all of a sudden, it's all crashing. And they may end up even in a worse position because they maybe have put too much pressure on themselves or had too high of expectations about the entire journey, and also about what they should look like after a certain period of time. And that is just something that I'm always thinking about, right?
It's a good actual topic for this being the start of the year, in fact. And I do see it with, thankfully, only a small number of clients where they are the type of client, rightly or wrongly, they are probably a little bit neurotic, or I don't know, almost untrusting in the process. And they're constantly kind of looking and searching for motivation, whether that be changing exercises because in their head something's got stale, or they're bored and they just don't embrace kind of, I don't know, the lifestyle of bodybuilding. And they're kind of just looking for a quick fix. They're like, MyFitnessPal and tracking's stressing me out. And then you suggest, I don't know, go into a meal plan. And they're like, I get really bored of the food I'm eating. And then you're like, okay, why don't we just track an element of protein and then eating to hunger? And we're trying to just slowly track body weight to see weight gain go up. And they're like, no, I feel more motivated now. And I'm going to go towards like tracking again. And you're like, but surely we should find we need to find something that you can sustain. And it's same with the split or the training. It's like, I think I should go to 6 days per week. And then they're like, I missed 2 sessions, I'm really demotivated. I think maybe go to 3. And you're like, you're trying to find this point with this client where it's just like something they can sustain and just do. And it's part of their lifestyle and they enjoy, and they don't check results all the time and they don't want to change things all the time. And they're just embracing what is a slow process for natural bodybuilding of growing muscle. Even losing fat for some people can be quite slow if they haven't got a lifestyle that's really set up for it. It's quite stressful. They just have to accept maybe a bit of a slower rate of loss, which can be challenging for a lot of people, and they just end up giving up. Kind of, I think some of my clients, and I can be this way sometimes, but I think I've got better, is being like all or nothing. And that just leads to yo-yo dieting a lot of the time, which is super unfortunate.
No, absolutely. There's a lot of truth in that. And I wonder, also on top of what I'm wondering on all of the other things lately, is whether it's the person that they want to be is appealing for them, but the person that they should be is a different one. So they are approaching basically a physique optimization service, a bodybuilding prep service such as ours, when in reality, they should just go with someone who is more like a lifestyle coach. Because there is a certain level of commitment that is required, and a certain or a minimum amount of dedication, work, and effort that is required as well, in order to get to that desired outcome that we are most of the time seeing them for our athletes. And that doesn't always align with what it is that they should be doing. And I've just recently, has been a little bit longer ago, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, I've seen something on Instagram. I don't know who it was who posted that, but he said something in the lines of, I think that the vast majority of people should only be concerned in hitting the overall calories for the day, and then having a good approach to training, maybe something like 4 or 5 times per week. And that is what the vast majority of people should solely focus on. But that's unsexy, I think, for the vast majority of people. That's just so simple, right? It's like, okay, I'm now fully dedicated. I'm delving into things. And now I want to know it all. And I want to test it all. I want to do it all. When in reality, you should just start learning to walk and just do it for a very long time. And if you then still want this, and want this a little bit more detailed after 2, 3, 4 years, then go down the rabbit hole. It's like whenever you make a purchase, instead of doing or going with a more impulsive decision of I want this car now, and you're just buying that car, or such as you're now about to move here this week. You're not just going out and buying a house just because you feel like it. You take the time, you really think about it, whether you can afford it, what goes into it, all the responsibilities and all that kind of stuff. And if you then think it's a good decision, and you let some time pass and you still feel that same way, then maybe consider that. There's a saying, I don't know who it was, who said, if you can't buy it twice, you can't afford it. And that's basically the same thing here as well, right? If you can't see yourself doing this, especially also with the commitment and all that kind of stuff for a longer period of time, maybe this isn't for you, and that is totally all right. Maybe like boiling it down to something like just focus on the calories and train hard. And I know it's kind of that lazy argument of like, what is training hard? But to some extent, we all know what this means. And maybe then get an offline personal trainer who just pushes you also, right? Just to make you feel good and to make you feel a little bit healthier because you are doing something.
Hi guys, Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to remind you of the Revive Stronger member site. Inside, you'll find a thriving forum, a growing exercise library, presentations, research reviews, and courses. If you want to get involved, sign up via the description. There's a lot of thoughts that come through my mind. Probably the main one here is I think people underestimate kind of what the basic requirements are. And they think, oh, they're basic, they're easy. But some of the most basic requirements are some of the hardest to adhere to. So like actually eating in a surplus or even a deficit day on day on day, like it's simple to be said, but to actually adhere to it in practice, that's going to make or break your results. Whether or not you supplement with fucking ashwagandha is not going to make or break results in yes. any way, shape or form, or Turkestone, whatever it is, whatever it is. The new one that's come out that everyone's fucking talking about.
Just by the way, sorry, Steve. Oh no, go ahead.
You're on the Turkestone or whatever it is.
Today I saw an ad over on Instagram. Simeon Panda, who's now promoting ashwagandha and talking about that.
Oh,
of like
amazing.
The magical supplement. But sorry, continue.
That's the crazy thing, actually. I was looking at just on ashwagandha or supplementation in general. I was looking at the reach of my posts, like I do actually regularly look to see what I should post about. And my largest reach was fucking ashwagandha.
Oh, crazy.
A herb that's making like a couple of percentage of difference for stress for some people. But if like you haven't got so many other things in check, like making sure you have 8 hours in bed or something, or not drinking coffee too late in the day, it's not going to make a scratch on the surface. And so many people underestimate kind of, they have a certain goal in mind and to look like someone, but they underestimate what it takes to get there. And they also underestimate just the basic stuff that we take for granted, like brushing our teeth. And a lot of our clients do those really, really well. And we can get into the minutiae with them, and they can benefit small amounts from nailing down nutrient timing a bit better, maybe supplementing with ashwagandha, maybe looking a bit at their biomechanics. But like you said, most people don't need that level of granularity. And actually, I think I see this more with clients that maybe coach hop a little bit, is that hoping that one of these coaches online, and now there's loads of us, is going to do something slightly different. This one little trick that's going to make all the difference to their results. Whereas actually, if you haven't got the foundation sorted out, like all those grounding things that we talk about all the time, we always say it, like maybe we're too basic, too non-sexy. We can get into the details, but before you've got all those grounding principles right, we're not going to lie to you. You are not going to see amazing results. It doesn't matter if I know how to target your iliac lat perfectly, or supplement like your nutritional carbohydrate intake across the day and chrononutrition, this, whatever, like using your Oura ring to track your resting heart rate and manipulate variables to optimize that. Like I can talk loads of jargon and shit that's going to do nothing if you haven't got the bare basics in check, which so many people, again, just underestimate what it takes to get those in check. I don't know where I was going.
No, but that's the thing, right? And that's basically what the gist of that post, or that, I think it was a picture like these Twitter screenshots, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Was hinting at, of like, too many people, well, the vast majority of people should be focused on just like hitting the total amount of calories, because we know how important that is. And so many people have a hard time in doing that. And this is something that I know because I'm dealing with that nearly on a daily basis when I just take a look at the spreadsheet of athletes. And there's not like a poke at my athletes or so. It's just what the vast majority of people are struggling with. It's not like the most fancy thing that is, of course, then a little bit harder to attain. So no, it's like the most simplistic stuff. There's probably also the reason why people aren't seeing the progress or the results that they would like to. And we're not talking about, hey, hitting the macros or hitting the just like breaking down to calories only, hitting the calories like 2 weeks in a row, like perfectly. No. We're talking about years of actually doing this on a consistent basis. And if you then deviate by like 100 calories here and there, that's not really a big deal, but it's more like doing it for years. And just take a look at Steve's MyFitnessPal streak or my MyFitnessPal streak. That
What's
doesn't mean,
number?
Wait a second.
I actually don't know what mine is. I'm a little bit embarrassed. I don't really want to say what it is.
Thing is, I think I told you at some point, there was an app in Germany that was called FDDB, which I was using before MyFitnessPal, which is also kind of a data bank. So I then transitioned over to MyFitnessPal like 2,287 days ago, which is kind of my current streak. And ever since then, it hasn't been broken. But before that, I was already tracking via FTDB for like 2 or 3 years constantly. And that doesn't mean that I'm spending a lot of time on that platform, because my habits are basically always the same. But if you can't even manage to have like one complete month without any kind of deviation, I'd like see this as the 30-day challenge. If you're already struggling with that, boy, it will become hard to really change something about yourself for the long term.
And I think that's where like a skilled coach can troubleshoot to find the solution for that individual. Like I was saying with that client, like we were at macros, wasn't quite working. So we tried to make it like less time precious, go to a meal plan that you can stick to. That wasn't working. So we went towards like, we're kind of pulling back a layer of difficulty and challenge and time every single time. But then someone just, when they see something like, oh, just make sure you hit a minimum protein and eat to satiety and make sure you eat like 5 fruit and veg, it's too simple now. It's like, but it clearly isn't if we haven't been able to do any of the stages before that. Because it's not necessarily, I think you'd say the same, it's not necessarily about a MyFitnessPal streak as such. Like we're not saying you have to log in every single day for like 30 days, whatever. It's just about like adhering to those overall principles that just people struggle so much with that.
And the problem is, on that note, how do you convince someone that this is actually what really is important? Because I think that many people kind of know it, maybe not to the same extent as we know it, because we've been doing this and seeing this in such a long time that, of course, we can't decipher of what's really important and what isn't. It's kind of as if we were to dabble into a new area. Let's just say like housing market. Like, what's a good offer there? What is it that we should look for in the house, like the building? Is it a good building? Whatever. Right? We have no idea. We value everything kind of the same. But over time then, and that's why you're then going to a coach, or why you are hiring someone who is an expert in that field, so that you could take advantage of their expertise. And how do you then convince someone that it is that simplistic? It is that easy, while at the same time it isn't, because we know how many people are struggling with that. And people don't want to hear that, unfortunately. And that's why it's then going back to what it is that you said. People start to kind of coach hop because they think like, nah, that can't be it, right? Must happen much faster. I'm seeing those results over on Instagram. Don't keep the secrets away from me, hidden from me, right? Come on, give them to me. Should I pay more? right? No. Yeah, it's just something that I was thinking of lately, especially now due to the results of the Christmas period. And I'm always like concerned trying to become a better coach. And that's why I'm trying to confront myself with these thoughts of maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I need to change my approach on certain things. And how can I convince people that this is something that they should be mostly focused on? And how can I make it a little bit more delicious for them? You know, that it's not, I don't know, you have like either Choco Krispies in front of you or you have Weetabix, even though that I like Weetabix, but like dry Weetabix in front of you without milk. And then you have Choco Krispies with milk. You can go for the Weetabix. It's all right. So how can you make it a little bit more delicious for them so that it's also something that they like and enjoy to adhere to spend time on, and to not seek out those fancy schmancy other things?
Yeah, I don't know if it reminds me of one of my clients said they are getting employed as a PT and they asked for any recommendations, so one-on-one. And I was like, I don't have much experience here. But what I would say is, especially when you're a one-on-one PT, they're very gen pop generally. Like and they want to be felt exhausted. They want to like do some bicep curls probably, or do some really glute burning exercises for a female. Like I'm very much generalizing, like blokes want bicep burn, females want the glute pump. And so I was just like, make sure at the start of your workout that you do with them, just like do the stuff that really matters. Yep. Technique work on big compound basics that you know that's going to drive results. Then the last like 10, 15 minutes, bro out with them or whatever, like just give them something of what they want in that scenario. So I guess that's something we can take on board in like, and I guess I do it now and then where we do it now and then where we post or talk about topics or things that are like, we know they're fringe. They're very much minutia. They're not going to make or break results, but they might draw someone into us so we can get them into our kind of Revive Stronger system. Not that we have a system, but where we focus on the core foundational principles and be like, this is the shit that matters. But yeah, it's then trying to keep it fun and exciting whilst not feeling like you're a bit of a sellout or like you have to. And I try normally, and you're probably the same way, so I try and educate them in just being like, whatever that thing is that you really want to do, that's not like, we can do that. And if that makes you feel happy, cool. But just know it isn't the thing that I'm worried about or concerned about. It's all this, like the boring basic stuff that just needs to be dialed in each and every day. And yeah, it's just trying to communicate that to them effectively without them feeling like besmirched.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know where we want to go from here. Let's talk about an update on you.
Yeah, titties. We're talking now about titties, man boobs. So for everyone who still wants to continue listening, you're more than welcome. For everyone who's not interested in man boobs, skip the next couple of minutes. My recovery is going very, very well now. Since like a week, I'm now exactly to the day 14 days post-surgery. So 14 days ago, I was going through twice surgery, as I already alluded to the last time that we've talked. And also, by the way, the last time that we've talked, I was still very much kind of not present, to be honest. I was not feeling good. Feels like a lifetime already, just because of the discrepancy of how I'm feeling now in comparison to like 2 weeks ago. And yeah, it was kind of, now looking back in hindsight, kind of a shit show what happened, but I don't want to discourage anyone. Anyone who is maybe dealing with the same thing or considering getting surgery as well, I don't try to discourage you of getting that, because I think what I went through is more like a rare occasion or rare thing rather than the norm. And I was very surprised of how many people have either gone through surgery themselves or who have been dealing with it or are still dealing with that as well. And then I was looking into it a little bit more so, and just like Googling it, right? Trying to find statistics on how many people are or have been dealing with a gynecomastia. And it's crazy. The statistics say that 2 out of 3 men have it or had it once in their lifetime. And most of the time it happens either in the adolescence years or when they are actually growing older due to those hormonal changes. And of course, into the statistics, probably there are also some people who are then taking anabolic steroids, where then also the hormonal imbalances come into play, and then it's being developed. But I found it shocking of how many people actually have something like this, or are going through something like this. And especially, of course, due to our demographic, it's mostly people from their puberty who either have like a small lump and there's nothing to be seen, or it's kind of pseudo gynecomastia, which is just like a lot of fat tissue instead of just the gland. So there are also differences there. And yeah, for me, it was just like I felt good about talking about it because I have the feeling that it's such a taboo topic because it's also stigmatized, I think, especially around bodybuilding, that immediately people are going to come to conclusions or going to make accusations or so, because the people who are clueless about it, they come immediately to the conclusion that it is due to anabolic steroid use or so, because they've never heard it in any other fashion or so, because it is very an intimate thing. And also mostly what I've gathered with talking about the people who had it, who also went through surgery, a very much embarrassing thing. And this is something that I can relate to as well, right? I never really felt comfortable taking off my shirt. Like, honestly, never really. And that was very much cool to see that putting myself out there does help people opening up and seeing that they are not alone with this, right? Now, 2 weeks post-surgery, so the last 7 days, my recovery has actually improved big time, so I can do more and more things. Unfortunately, I have a little bit of pain on the outside part of my delts, so lateral side of my delts, which is weird, but I could imagine this is something that I have to talk with my doctor about, that one of my nerves either got a little bit, I don't know, irritated or so. It could be the axillary nerve, which is, if I remember correctly, and I could be completely wrong, it's also attached on the teres minor, and because of that, it kind of wraps around your arm and then attaches also up to the lateral side of your delts, that it may have gotten a little bit irritated or is still being irritated due to a little bit of swelling, because I'm still holding onto a little bit more water here on this side, that the pressure is then causing a pinching sensation. And whenever I'm actually putting my elbow back like this, then it hurts like a motherfucker. It's kind of as if someone is really sticking something into my delts. Other than that, I finally was able to once again sleep on my side after like 2 weeks, which is good because I'm a side sleeper. And also I was doing my first training sessions here starting yesterday. What I ended up doing is quads here yesterday, quads and abs yesterday, and here today hamstrings and calves, because these are the only body parts that I can train at the moment. And then possibly I'm considering then doing some pulling movements here the next week, maybe some delt movements next week, but this is something that I take as it comes. Like, honestly, there is no rush. I don't want to make matters worse just because I'm impatient. And to be honest, it's like I already said over on Instagram in my post, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, even 6 weeks is nothing in the grand scheme of like what I want to do, and that is train for the next, hopefully, still 10 to 20 years.
That's really cool to hear. Just like everything there in terms of the sharing of it, which I don't know if it was easy for you, but if it wasn't, then great. But if it was easy, it wasn't easy, then I understand that as well. But it's great that you've got the kind of positive reinforcement for sharing that. I always find that. At
first, it wasn't. Because I was afraid that I am being kind of put into that category of like, hey, he's a bodybuilder, he's claiming to be natural. No, now he has gynecomastia, he is on something. So, right? When in reality, it's just the funny thing is, whenever I was taking a shower or so, or being in a cold environment, you couldn't see that. Simply because the skin was stretching that much that it wasn't visible. It was only visible whenever it was warm outside and stuff, right? So you could easily hide that. But I knew that it was there, right? And because of that, it was always like, man, should I put myself out there? Should I communicate that? I could have easily also just like keep it for myself.
Yeah.
And no one would have ever known about it, right? But is that really valuable? No, not really, right? So then, of course, at some point, like, what was it that we talked about it first? I think it's a year ago where we touched on it just like very, very, just like on the side, right? Not really talking about it in depth. And now, just because the surgery was coming up, I thought that sharing that a little bit more so is a valuable thing. And now also looking back in hindsight, I actually kind of regret that it didn't vlog the entire thing of like daily recovery vlog as well, because I was searching because I had some complications and I was searching through the webs about those complications, and there is nothing from people who are reporting or talking about going through that surgery and the recovery period. Very, very little information. And I thought like, man, especially because I went through complications, I should have logged that so that people can actually take something away from it whenever they are going through the same procedure as well. Here we are always wiser a little bit in hindsight, but yeah, I mean, I was worried at first of sharing that, not necessarily just because of categorization, but just because I didn't really want to draw the attention on something like that.
Yeah. It's just a bit, I get it. It's uncomfortable for sure. Like anything about your body, it's quite an intrusive thing. And I think it's good that you did share it, because there will hopefully be other people who now have a bit of a resource to come to for this sort of thing. But it's funny you say about vlogging. I very often think, I should have vlogged like various things. Even like my recovery diet here, I'm like, I should have actually vlogged that on a week-to-week basis. But it's quite a lot of effort to vlog these things. I think people underestimate it sometimes. Like, it sounds easy just setting down a camera and just talking to it, but and maybe that's the easiest part, and editing it all is the hardest part. But it's always easier in hindsight. But it's surprising how much. It's kind of, it makes me think of like influencers, and that's like the main marketing for a lot of things now, because people trust people and they want to hear reviews of real life people doing things, experiencing things. So that's why the improvement season is great, because people get to hear like on a week-to-week basis our experience through bodybuilding. And all the time we have people who are like, oh, I think similarly, or I've been through that. It's funny you spoke about that, because that's exactly what I was going through. So yeah, I'm really glad that we do this, at least to document things, and that you've spoken through. And I'm glad at least as well where you said like not to put people off about the kind of recovery process, because yours was quite severe. But now 2 weeks on, and I imagine it's going to hopefully continue in this trajectory, it's still going to have all been worth it.
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below.
Yeah, I think so. And the reason why I also didn't vlog it, so it's always easier to look back and be like, yeah, shit, I should have done that. It's the same as when it comes to investing and you see something skyrocketing and you be like, I was looking at that. I should have invested that. It's always so easier to make that, or to be wise in hindsight.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I was simply not feeling up to it. I had my hands full of pain, concerns, and I wasn't even able to really take care of my family in that moment, let alone then get my ass up to vlog this. Sorry for my language. This shit, basically, right? So I was just like trying to be concerned, not to be too depressed, because everything was swollen. I had massive hematoma, which also caused me, by the way, to get into the hospital on the 24th, which I haven't talked about yet. So on the 24th, the evening on the 24th, right after we had Christmas dinner, I actually then went into the hospital, it was the perfect timing because the hospital was actually quite empty. So I didn't need to wait for like 2 hours or so. I was developing a massive hematoma on the left side, which mostly was just caused by my compression vest, which then pressed all of the blood and all of the fluid down here the side, and then it was kind of being collected here on the side of my body. But these things make you very much concerned, and you've never seen it, you've never went through it before, and you were just like thinking the entire time, is this normal? My surgeon, the entire clinic was kind of shut down over Christmas, so I couldn't really call them and be like, hey, is this normal? Which is also crazy, right? If you really think about it. But because of that, I was just like occupied with basically myself and getting through it. And now, like, especially once again, over the past 7 days, things have very much improved about the way that I feel, but also about the swelling and the way that it looks. My left side was the side with the vast majority of complications. Right side, even, you can even see it on the pictures, was already looking quite good right after the surgery, but the left side was like completely fucked up. And that is still something that you can see that there has been kind of left bad and right good, and but things are improving big time, and I'm very much looking forward to the results, because even 2 weeks post-surgery, it's way too early to tell what it will look like in a finalized form. But if it continues to recover the way that it does right now, then I am very much confident that it will look pretty good, actually.
It's really cool. Yeah, I guess, are you taking photos to like document the recovery a little bit for you?
Yeah, that's the thing. So I had, of course, taken some pictures due to the hematoma and the swelling. And I was thinking like, okay, let's record it on a weekly basis, but also there's like
effort.
Yeah, I mean, I should have taken it such as like physique update pictures. Right?
Yeah.
With good natural lighting so that you can really see it, because I just took it like selfie kind of style, and that was stupid, and yeah. So no.
Very much a side note with the vlogging, because I vlogged when I was in Vegas and Worlds, and when I think about it, like I wouldn't have wanted to do it, but I'm glad I did. And once you commit it, for vlogging at least, once you commit to doing something, like if you said before the surgery, I'm going to vlog every week, then you do it. But when you're in the moment, you're like, I'm not going to bother with this. I think about it sometimes with stories. Like I do a story and I'm like, do I want to share that insight into my life or not? And I think probably more than often I should, but I more often than not decide I'm not going to share that, whatever it is. I don't know what it could be.
Yeah, it was unfortunate once again that I didn't vlog it.
But I'm glad we have this.
In that moment, I just didn't think about it, and also the days before that, I didn't think about it, to be honest. But that shouldn't be a justification that I didn't do that. But luckily we have it now here where we're talking about it, and overall, what I want the people to get away or get out of this conversation is especially like what is going on, and what are you, or what should you do when you go through invasive surgeries, recovering from a massive injury or so, recovering from a massive sickness. And I just want the people to have a takeaway from this here, that it's all right. As long as you come out of it healthy again, you will come back in a matter of no time. I did it in 2016. You did it with your car accident or van accident, right? And these are things. So my hip surgery was way more invasive than this is. I wasn't allowed to walk or put any kind of pressure on my leg for more than 8 weeks. And your car accident was even crazier than this. You could have died, man. You could have been paralyzed. What? I don't know, something like this, right? And it took you a long time to recover. And as long as you get out of this or these things in a healthy manner, and you don't end up, I don't know, in an unfortunate situation, it is an inconvenient and fucked up thing in the moment. It isn't fun. It feels like a lifetime. But once you come out of it, you will make rapid improvements, and you will look back after a year after 5 years and be like, holy shit, actually, this was nothing. Right? It was just like such a short, well, it felt like now, such a short period of time, when in the moment it felt like an eternity. So hang in there. Take the time to recover. Do what it is that you can do. So for me personally, I still went out on walks. Try to be active. Oh, I don't know if that was the most responsible thing to do, right? But I've tried my very best to still stay in the groove of things, also for my mental health as well. And now I'm trying to ease my way back into training with what it is that I can do and what I'm allowed to do in terms of now starting off with lower body activity, then easing my way into upper body activity, and then at some point it's probably back to normal.
It's funny, I can definitely attest to that in terms of looking back and thinking about the recovery process. Like, I know it was like years long for me to recover from that head injury. But now I look back and I'm like, I don't know, downing a pint of water and I'm like, oh, I can do this. And I really would have, put myself in hospital if I downed a glass of water, which sounds ridiculous, like during that period of time of recovering. But I think, like you said, and there's so many parallels to contest prep as well. Like, if you've been for a contest prep, you can apply a lot of the lessons and challenges towards a recovery period in terms of like focusing on what you can do versus what you can't, take each day as it comes. And like, you look back at, like, even for you, Pascal, that diet period where you really pushed it, it probably felt, I imagine at the time, like a grind, but you look back, you're like, that went pretty quick. I'm the same with prep. I'm like, the prep actually just flew by. Like, at the time, it felt like a long time, but I mean, in reality, months, it's not that long. But it's, and I think importantly for you, you mentioned mental health. I think that's probably the biggest thing, is like doing what as much as you can to keep that in check as well. Yeah. Like, I was the set of, like, probably a lot of the listeners, we're active people that don't want to just sit around. So do as much as you can safely without kind of backscaling any of the recovery process.
Yeah. And it's all right to hate the moment and hate the situation. Yeah. Just don't let it consume you. Right?
It gets easier as well, right?
Totally.
Like, each day, like, at first it's really uncomfortable. Then you kind of settle into a bit of a routine and it gets a bit normal. Yeah. And you'll transition back into the gym and it's great you're back into the gym. I bet that felt probably not quite as good as when the lockdown ended.
I was sweating actually a lot. I don't know. So I still do believe that I'm holding a lot of water at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised because in terms of my diet, nothing really has changed. I was still like trying to aim for 2,200 calories. I was not deviating massively from it. Yes, it was the Christmas period where there were, of course, meals that were harder to track, but I just applied my own rules. So it could be that I've gained like a little bit, but the way that I see myself and the details, how far gone they are now, doesn't really, or the way that I've eaten over the past weeks doesn't really explain what I'm seeing visually. So I just have to assume that the body is still in a highly stressful state, and I wouldn't be surprised that because of still lots of hematomas, lots of cell swelling, etc., around that area, and possibly then in other areas as well. So, and it's like you said, Steve, rather be then in a more net positive environment in terms of nutrition to aid the recovery process, and then get rid of like excess fat, excess water that has been accumulated throughout this period of time, instead of putting yourself in a compromised position, extending the recovery period, feeling even worse about it, maybe even fearing of muscle loss or so during that period of time, or accelerating that at least. Yeah. And that's why it's just like,
for sure.
Let it be even 1 to 2 kilograms. Hey man, this is something that can easily be lost in just like a couple of weeks.
Question: did you eat any stollen?
No.
I had a slice of stollen on the weekend.
Then you are more...
It's good stuff.
You're more German than me.
I haven't had any Leberkuchen. I didn't have any Leberkuchen.
No, neither did I. I had
one mince pie.
I had, though, one, what is it called again? These Pfeffernüsse, which is kind of...
Okay, they're also very similar, right?
Yeah, very, very similar. No, that's the only thing that I really had. And Katie did for New Year's Eve, like, chocolatey fruits, which I'm not the biggest fan of fruits and chocolate around it. Really not. But I have to say, like banana with chocolate, that is something. That is something.
Works.
It works, yeah, it works. But no traditional, no traditional candy or so this year. No.
I was very pleasantly surprised how tasty Stollen was. I was like, wow.
Where did you have that?
At my parents'. They sell it in like in our supermarkets.
All right.
You know, like you can get like mini Yule logs.
Yeah.
It's like a mini slice of Stollen. So it was just like a little thing like that. Very good, very good.
How was the Christmas and New Year's Eve period for you, Steve?
Nutritional
wise and stuff.
So again, similar to you, like I didn't like take a weighing scale we went to Zuck and Waffle on Christmas Day, and I didn't take a weighing scale and like weigh things out. I just estimated some bits and pieces and just threw it together. I think I actually intentionally saved a few hundred calories going into that, thinking I would overeat. And I definitely did overeat because the scale weight was going up. But it's funny because it was similar to what you're saying there in terms of like, I'm feeling like I have stuck to my numbers, but somehow not reflecting in my physique. And I can be way less sure that it's anything like you're talking about because you're going through that stressful period. But I was like, my weight just seems to, I've reduced calorie intake. My weight's just continuing to go up. It just seemed like it was drawn to this, like around 180 pounds. Like there was just something willing me to get there. And I was like, I'm just going to go with it because I'm feeling good. And now it's settling around there on the same intake. Yeah. So yeah, did that. And then New Year's, did nothing special. Because we just hadn't planned. We went to a pub for some food, and I think I had a pizza. I've actually eaten a lot of pizza recently. That doesn't surprise you. Had a few Domino's and pizzas out. Some of them have been very disappointing, to be honest. But still, pizza's pizza is still tasty, even if it's not up to standard. But yeah, so New Year's stayed up till midnight, and then basically went as soon as I could to bed.
I actually
that was socially acceptable.
I actually went to bed at 8:30.
I would if I not 8:30's too early for me.
Yeah, it was very early. I was just like knackered, and also the kids stayed up until this point, which is normally not the time when they are going to bed. And I was just like, "Fuck this! I'm tired. I'm just going to bed together with the kids."
Yeah, I think that's one of the in every relationship there are kind of you to and fro, and that's one like I'm not always going to stay up late with you, Charlotte, but it's New Year's. I'll stay up till 12, but I'm not going to stay up till like 2 a.m. So I kind of give her that, and we didn't do anything extreme, so that was like our middle ground.
To end the podcast on, I hope on a positive note, what are the plans for you 2022 now, Steve?
I did think about that being the topic for this episode.
And then it ended up being like man boobs,
a minute,
depression.
So I'm going to go briefly over some of these. House, obviously getting moved in and just getting it sorted to a decent level. So like getting the walls painted, like I've got various things I want to do, getting the office like sorted out, bits and pieces like that. So house, that's kind of most of my life stuff that I want sorted. I think business-wise, I would like more direction for us. And I think we're going to get that. We're going to do that ourselves, and we're going to be able to give more energy to that because we're not going to be prepping, that's for sure. So that's really cool. So that's mostly the business side. And then for me personally with the bodybuilding, it's funny, like I don't like, there's not a certain, like I don't want to hit a certain PR on the hack squat. I don't want to hit a certain straight leg deadlift number. Like it's very much, I will apply myself and the same due diligence every day consistently, and I will get what I get. Like I don't want to set a certain body weight goal even. It's a case of I'm going to mass, going to cut or mini cut, and I'm going to drift through at the best rate where I feel the best and I'm seeing the best progress, and what will be will be. I don't personally feel like it's valuable to me to set I want to be 200 pounds by this date, or I want to be like lifting 170 kilos for 10 straight leg deadlift by May. That might happen. That might be an appropriate goal and timeline, but I don't need to map that out because I'm going to do everything I need to allow that to happen at the fastest pace possible anyway. So yeah, bodybuilding wise, I don't think I have anything particularly like to just keep enjoying it and applying myself.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say one thing more, maybe on the nutritional side, is continue with the slightly more social, relaxed approach to my nutrition, which sounds like essentially what that means is not being so stuck to, oh, I want to choose this restaurant or this thing on the menu because it better fits my macros, and more often allowing myself opportunities where there's something I really want to try that's just like, what is this? And just trying it. And that doesn't mean way going over calories. It probably just means my macro split might be slightly more towards fats basically than carbs.
No,
and allowing myself to do that because I don't think it's worth the level of strictness that sometimes I apply to that variable versus the enjoyment I would get from experiencing something, if you know what I mean.
No, absolutely. No, these are great goals. And I think that what it is that you said there in terms of also progressing and just ticking off the boxes, basically, continuing your journey, continuing what it is that you've been doing, and basically earning the progress. I feel like too many people feel entitled about looking a specific way and progressing in a specific way. It's like the ones who, I don't know, complain about not being, what is it called again, promoted at work, when in reality they know that they didn't deserve a promotion, right? You have to earn it. And then it's also way more gratifying as well in terms of what it is that you've been working for, right? You've created it. It wasn't just given to you. And I think that's, I'm very excited then to see what it is that you then are able to bring for the next time that you step on stage.
And I have to throw it back at you. I should be like Instagram. I want 100K followers. Imagine I get to 100K. But I don't have. Again, it's just growing those at the best pace that we can. Like the podcast, the YouTube, like my Instagram. Like I have no control over if I hit 75K by a certain date or not. So, but same to you. Have you outlined any goals for this year?
Not really, to be honest. I've thought about it because I've seen people like reflecting upon their goals that they set for themselves in 2021. I found it very, very cool because it allows you to have like a clear path in front of you, a realistic thing to work towards to. And if there is a goal that you didn't accomplish in 2021, you can just carry it over into 2022 because you've already started to work on that goal. So I was considering actually writing down like at least 5 things, because 5 things is not too overwhelming, it's not too much, and it should be something that is of course realistic as well, but also not setting the bar too low where it's like, okay, I've accomplished that in just a matter of like 2 weeks or so. But yeah, no, not really. I haven't really thought about it, and I need to actually give myself a little bit more of a clear path, because otherwise you're just walking around in the dark. You move from one bank to the next and sitting down, and without having a clear goal, you're also not really working as hard for something as you would do if you have like a clear goal in front of you. I think that the prep showed me that as well. Like what I'm able to accomplish in those 4 weeks, or was able to accomplish in those 4 weeks, was purely also because I had an incentive. I had a motivation, kind of motivation, not in the sense of like, yeah, I was thinking about it the entire time, but it was more like, okay, this is now the goal and I can do this, but in order to do this, I need to work. And I think that this is very much valuable and something that I need to sit down, think about what is it that I really, really want. And that has always been something that I'm bad at, to really figuring out what I want. Like really, sincerely what I want. Not just like, yeah, today I want this, tomorrow I want that, but like sincerely knowing this is what I definitely want.
I do have 2 more, which might give you some ideas. I don't know.
Go ahead.
One is I want to commit to training ADA. So I want to have done some actual formal training sessions for ADA. And then another one is reading more books. So I have like 3 books that they're all like nutrition training based. Like I bought Menno's book on habit building, I think it was.
Yeah, cool.
And I have James Clear's book on habits.
Yeah.
He actually sent me that one. I haven't read them. And I just need to allow myself time to put towards reading more. So I need to make them a bit more specific. Like I want to have read one book a month or every 2 months. Like try and make it as, like you said, don't set it too low, but make it realistic. Like 2 training sessions a month for Ada or something. I'm same as you. Like I have ideas of goals and things that I want, but I haven't put them pen on paper and dotted them down.
So I'm also thinking about those 5 things to be things that do improve something in your life.
Yeah.
So it brings you forward. And that is something that I'm talking about, not just like small things of like, I want to grow a mustache this month. Right?
It'll bring you forward.
I mean, but you don't have to do anything in order to accomplish that. It's the same with mobile devices. I want to actually get better of just like leaving them when I don't have to, because I've noticed how freaking addicted I am to having the mobile device in front of me, even though that I'm not doing anything productive. I'm just like scrolling through the different apps, and it fucking pisses me off because I could use that time much, much better in actually spending that time with my kids, honestly. And I think that many, many people know exactly this feeling. Of course, when there sometimes is something good about it, but even when I think like I'm doing something productive, I'm not doing anything productive. Sometimes I'm just finding myself like in the hopes to find something that makes me productive, and I end up just wasting time. Right? And I want to get better at like using this when I need to, like the tool that it is, not to numb myself from reality, because I haven't really taken the time to just like sit still and just think for a longer period of time. Just reflect upon my current situation. Often it's like whenever I'm sitting down and I don't have anything to do, I'm picking out my phone and doing something. That never really gives you the chance of confronting yourself with yourself and with your environment. Right? You're basically always pushing it to the side, always pushing the problems to the side, always pushing the thoughts to your side. And I want to definitely be able to just like leave it there and spend more time with me, myself, and my environment, and not a kind of a fictional environment, because that's what it is.
Yeah, this is why we could have done a whole episode. I'll try and keep my thoughts brief on this. But I'm the same. One thing I find myself doing is like in the evening watching something with Charlotte, and then I'll be on my phone and she'll be like, what's just happened? And I'm like, fuck, why have I been looking at my phone? So that's like one rule. I'm like, put that to the side.
Same.
But yeah, maybe
absolutely.
Maybe we should do it. Like, we'll go away from this episode. Yeah. We'll put some pen on paper, and then we'll come back and reflect it next time.
And I'm always thinking like, there was nothing here that I needed to do right now. If you, of course, need to, I don't know, Google something, or I don't know, even answer an email. I got much, much better in answering emails when I'm working instead of when I'm lying on the couch or so. But even anything else, like learning something or so, right? It can wait until tomorrow. There needs to be the time where you then just like, you're there, you're present, and you're not just like, I don't know, fleeing into a digital reality where you're just basically, once again, numbing yourself for what's truly going on around you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool. Should we call it there?
Yeah, let's do this.
So
guys, thank you very much for staying with us up until this point. If you haven't, or if you're now listening to this, I assume that you didn't skip the booby talk, the man boobs talk, which I very much appreciate. I very much appreciate that you are still here with us after 5 years, coming up to 5 years now. Ever since 2017, we're doing this podcast, and I hope that it will be another 5 years together. So if you then haven't really subscribed to our channel, I wonder what it is that you've been doing over the past 5 years. So please hit the subscription button down below, hit the like button, leave a comment, maybe what it is that you've been doing over Christmas and New Year's Eve, and whether you've been struggling with that or not. Maybe even some strategies that it is that you're using, because I can always learn, Steve can always learn, and maybe these are then things that some of our athletes or some of the listeners may find helpful as well. So guys, thank you very much, and off to a new year 2022 together. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal Flor. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people, but each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge, and I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.